Hello everyone. Now I'm going to discuss with the Kubernetes Service. What exactly is a service? Why we require this thing? See, we have previously discussed about the replica set. It is just looking into continuously monitoring into the pods. If it is not actually working, then it will just go into the YAML file and it will search for it. Okay, how many pods? 4 pods. Currently running 3. Therefore, I have to increase 1. It will increase. The thing is that it will create a new IP address for this particular pod. As we know, IP address is a virtual address that is provided to every machine, every computing device that is present in the world. My computer has something, you can just check using IP config, and we have a lot of machines using it can check IP config and you will get the IP address, you can ping it, and you can do a lot of things. And the thing is that your pods, the first pod, for example, here I mentioned this is the first pod, and here it got address like 172.168.0.1. It got this one, and got this one, and in here over here it got 170.168.0.2. um, 0.2. Okay, this is how the IP addresses are given to the pods by the replica set while creating this thing. And now if this particular machine dies, as I previously discussed, that once machine dies, before or parallelly itself it is gonna create a pods. Just think of it, if there are two machines, you can able to give same IP addresses to them only when you're using gRPC protocol that's normally used in routing and your machines like routers, Wi-Fi routers. But when you're dealing with these things, you cannot give the same IP addresses to the multiple things because it is used by multiple users around the world. Therefore, what it does, it will create a new pod, but the IP address for this particular thing will be 0.3. Now what happens? Actually, the thing is that replica set has created a new pod for it, but the end user is unable to use it because he has an IP address. That IP address is connected with some domain name, and the user is using that domain name. For example, this particular pod is connected with the google.com. He is using the google.com, and google.com using the DNS service it could able to get that. Okay, this IP address we can able to convert this into this domain name, and it is using this IP address. It is used by this particular domain name, and we are using it. The thing is that when this particular pod is getting deleted, we are assigned 0.2 with some domain name, and it is creating 0.3. In such case, the DevOps engineer, he has he is successful in creating the pods, but the developer, the end user, unable to access it. Therefore, we came across something called as services. Here, services work is to discover the their work is service discovery and load balancing. They does these things. How the service discovery goes? Like in the YAML file, as I previously discussed, we mentioned a lot of things. We have everything mentioned in the YAML file. In the YAML file, we could able to give the labels and selectors. And service discovery, what it does, for example, I just go over here, and I just remove these all things, and I just mention over here as a service. And what exactly is going on here? The thing is that deploy YAML as a YAML file. Replica set is using that YAML file to create some pods. It has created some pods, and these pods are getting used by the services. And at end we are getting that. And how exactly services are actually using it? Because service has also might be using the IP addresses only. If it is assigning some IP with some DNS and end user is using that, then how can we can able to resolve it? The problem goes same only. But the thing is that in the YAML manifest, for these all the pods what we are creating, we are giving some label name. For example, for this one, If it is payment one, like the payment related pod, then it is also payment related pod. The third one is also payment related pod. As mentioned, payment related pods over there. We got a name, we got a label name. And what service discovery does is that it will continuously monitoring all these pods. When the one pod is getting deleted, and it when it is getting deleted and it is replica set is creating new one with a new IP address like 0.4. It has created a new IP address, new pod with a new IP address, but the label name will be same because we are not disturbing the label name. IP addresses will be new and it is unique, but the label name is always same because in the YAML file we have mentioned it. It has a payment label. Therefore, service, what it does, it is always looking for a selector, like it is using for a selector named payment. And when it get to know that there is a new pod that has a new IP address but the same label named payment, then it will assign the new traffic to the new pod. This is how actually the service discovery happens. And this is also load balancing one, because replica set is creating a multiple pods and those pods are not getting utilized because of a difference in the IP address. Using the label name, it is using something called a service discovery, where it is searching for the selector name with that particular label name. It got to know, then it will provide services as well on that. This is how the service discovery mechanism works. In the services itself, we have three types. I'll just remove these all things and I will just add a new text over here. This is the new text. I'll just use the DM Sans fonts. Okay, we got DM Sans fonts. Here we have the the data space. I'll just decrease the data spacing. We have your paragraph text inside this. What I do, I just remove this thing and I mentioned it as a Kubernetes Service. This is the Kubernetes Service, and what I do, I just mention all those things that are a part of it. The first one, it is termed as a cluster IP. This is the cluster IP. Second one is node port, and the third one is service load balancer. These are the type of the services or Kubernetes services that we have. What exactly these things does? The first one, the cluster IP. The cluster IP does the same work that I previously mentioned. It does load balancing and service discovery mechanism. I just mentioned it over here. This is load balancing. It does load balancing, and after the load balancing, it goes for service discovery mechanism. This is the load balancing, and this is the load balancing, and we have the service discovery mechanism. Service discovery mechanism. It is doing for these two things. Cluster IP is managing your loads and it is making service discovery mechanism. Node port, in addition to these two services, what it is doing, it is providing some IP addresses like the normally the child nodes what I previously discussed are using they are having some IP addresses, and it, what I will just explain here. IP addresses. Okay. These are the IP addresses. Previously, we have some IP addresses, but we cannot able to ping those things because the cluster IP only provides a service inside the Kubernetes cluster, and you have organization and you have outside world. First we have the cluster, you have organization, and outside that you have the outside world. Here node port will provide some services where you can able to ping all the worker nodes that are present, that are making a communication with the master node, the control plane. Here you can able to ping those data planes using the node ports. You can able to communicate with those uh, you know uh, worker nodes. As I previously discussed in the queue proxy, here it comes. The queue proxy could able to communicate with others, with other worker nodes or control plane or outside organization, using node port only. What exactly load balancer does? See, load balancer, the same IP address what you have generated, you can able to use outside world. Out in the outside world, they are not going to use your IP addresses, they are going to use your domain name, using something called as a domain name service. Here your IP address is getting converted into domain name, and user when comes and start searching for the domain name, and you will get the service, the pod service, using the something called as a load balancer. This is how actually it works. And after this all things what I need to discuss, there is nothing left, and this is all about the Kubernetes services, and this is how it works. Load balancer normally provides a public IP address that you can use, and you can able to convert that into a DNS, domain name service. Node port only gives some specific IP addresses where you can able to use inside some organization. Like if you have AWS and you are an IAM user, then if node port access is given to you, then you can able to use that. And the cluster IP, inside cluster only, those who are managing the cluster, they could able to do those all things. But it is limited to load balancing and service discovery. In addition to load balancing and discovery, you could able to ping those worker nodes inside a cluster using node ports. In addition to these all things, load balancing will provide some additional services. And this is all about the Kubernetes services. Thank you.